Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to our session today um, on designing Windows widgets using generative AI. My name is Moria, and I'm going to be the host and moderate the session today. And I will be with you here through the session in the chat, help you with any questions you may have. This online event is part of the Microsoft Reactor program. And for those of you who are new to the Reactor program, the reactors are basically hubs for technical learning. We offer online and in-person events on different technologies and different levels, where you can attend our event and find out more about our event on our website. If you scan the QR code that's now on the screen, you'll reach our website and you can find out more about the upcoming events that we have in your region or in your time zone. As I said before, we have in-person events as well when we offer in one of our 10 locations worldwide where we have in-person space. But aside from that, as I mentioned, we offer online events pretty much every day on different time zones. So I encourage you to check out our website and find out more about our events that are happening near you. You can also sign up to our newsletter, and you will receive a monthly email with all the upcoming events that we have, depending on the region you are signing up from. If you scan the QR code now on the screen, you will be able to sign up to our newsletter. And I'm also going to share the link with you in the chat soon. So don't worry if you missed any of that. One thing I wanted to mention before we start today's session is the Microsoft Learn program. And if you haven't checked it out before, I highly encourage you to visit this website. Microsoft Learn offer lots of different opportunities for you to learn on different Microsoft products and technologies for free, of course. You have thousands of learning modules and learning paths, certification, on-demand content, blogs, a lot of opportunities to learn. And you can do it pretty much from anywhere at any time. If you scan the QR code now on the screen, you'll reach Microsoft Learn. You can explore this website and find out more about the AI Learning Hub and really a lot of other opportunities that you have to learn. Before we start the session, I wanted you to please take a minute to go through the code of conduct for all of our Microsoft events. This is an online event. We ask you to be aware of others, be patient, respectful in the chat. So please take a minute to go through the code of conduct. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Peter Bull. Peter is a Microsoft MVP. He's going to be delivering the session today. So I hope you all enjoy it. Just before I hand it over to Peter, I just wanted to mention this session is recorded and it will be available on the Reactor YouTube channel, which I'm going to share the link with you soon in the chat. So you can view it on demand as well after this session. Enjoy, everyone. And Peter, over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to Designing Windows Widgets using Generative AI. So I'm Peter Bull, and I'm a Microsoft MVP for .NET and Windows development, and I live in Gateshead in the northeast of England here in the United Kingdom. I'm a .NET developer. I've got over 3 years of personal experience and over 2 decades of professional experience as a developer for web, mobile, and desktops. My web experience goes all the way back to legacy ASP.NET. Right up to modern ASP.NET and Blazor. My mobile experience includes the legacy Windows Phone. So if anyone had a Windows Phone, I developed a couple of apps for that, all the way up to the latest .NET MAUI. And my desktop experience covers the broad range of .NET that you can use there. So it was Windows Forms, Windows Presentation Foundation, Universal Windows Platform, right up to today's Windows App SDK. I also have my own open source packages, which can include assets, which you can use in your applications, and some toolkits that just make it easier for developers, including Windows App SDK developers. Those can be found at commences.com. I also write articles and host my own podcast at roleplanetoid.com. And I even write my own tutorials, talks, and workshops, which includes ones on Windows Widgets. If you want to learn a bit more, you can at tutorialer.com. So today I'll be talking about Windows Widgets and how to design them with adaptive cards. Then I'll talk a bit about generative AI and how that can help with content creation. And then I'll demo that as well with a live demo of generative AI to create some Windows widgets, the adaptive cards for Windows Widgets. And then I'll summarize what we've done and a chance to ask any questions at the end. So Let's start talking about Windows widgets themselves. So Windows widgets are part of Windows 11, and Windows 11 enables seamless productivity and creativity for modern users. And widgets themselves allow quick access to information from the click or a swipe of the widgets board from the start menu. So Windows 11 itself is Microsoft's latest and most powerful operating system, and that helps developers, consumers, and businesses get things done. It's optimized for productivity with features like Snap Assist to keep your windows in check, and it also provides widgets as well, which provide information at a glance. Other things about Windows include being elevated for gamers as well, with reality rivaling graphics and an enhanced entertainment experience. It also features AI in of itself with Copilot, which can really kickstart your creativity or act as an intelligent assistant, whatever you might be doing. And if you want to find out more about what's new in Windows, including any new hardware, such as the Copilot Plus PCs, which have a lot more AI features that you can use, you can find that at windows.com. So widgets. Widgets in Windows 11, they allow you quick and easy access to at-a-glance information without you needing to open an app or a website. There's a few built-in widgets you can take advantage of, but there's also a few available from the Microsoft Store as well from others. So widgets themselves help you organize and save time from the widgets board. You can use many of the built-in widgets. There's ones for the calendar, news, and weather. And you can obviously, as I say, install any from the Microsoft Store as well. There's one for like Spotify and various other services as well. Widgets themselves can be customized based on your own interests and preferences, and it can be personalized to show what's important for you. Widgets can be interactive to engage with any content directly on those widgets, or they can be dynamic by supporting real-time updates to text and images. So they can show things like traffic information or your calendar or to-do list, anything like that. Widgets themselves are designed using adaptive cards, and these can be updated partially using data binding, so that can update any text or images based on anything that's been returned into them, or you can even completely replace the adaptive card with another adaptive card to show different kinds of information. So let's talk more about adaptive cards and how to design a widget using them. So adaptive cards themselves, they are actually platform agnostic UI snippets based in JSON, and they allow you to create rich interactive templates across different platforms or services. That includes Windows widgets, but you can also use the same technology for Microsoft Teams and Viva connections as well. So adaptive cards are used to exchange at-a-glance content using these JSON-based templates, and they support different kinds of elements such as text and images, and you can also have layouts as well with columns and tables. If you want to create them more technically, you can create them using JSON-based schema, or if you just want a drag and drop, there's a drag and drop designer that allows you to add elements, structure, and modify any properties and preview any output really easily. Adaptive cards themselves can be updated on any user actions, so anything the user actually does with a widget, for example, or when data is updated, so they always remain up to date. If you want to know more about adaptive cards, there's documentation, samples, schema, and the designer can all be found at adaptivecards.io. So the schema itself, if you want to know a bit more about that, that defines the structure of a card. So that's the technical side. So if you're using the designer, you don't have to worry about it too much, but this shows you all the different features you can have. So you can have card elements themselves. That's the bits that make up what it would actually look like. And the containers about how it's laid out. The inputs are how you'd interact with the widget, and the types as well that you can have. So card elements include text block, rich text block, and image. So that allows you to have text and graphics. And with media and media source, you can even display a video in an adaptive card if you want. Containers include things like columns and tables. So you can lay stuff out in an adaptive card, and you can even have a fact and a fact set to display a list of, say, keys and values to display, say, a question or answer, anything you like. You can have actions that can be performed in a widget. So you can have toggle visibility. So you can actually have things that turn on and off in a widget. And you can also open a URL to a browser to give a user more information, or you can submit any inputs from an adaptive card. And those inputs include text. So you can have a text box where a user can type something in, or a number if you just want them to put a number in. You can even allow them to select a date and time. And you can even have radio buttons as well, where you can select from a choice and choice set to submit any values from an adaptive card. There's a few types that support it, but the main one's the background image. So rather than just having a plain background, you can actually set an image as well for a widget with an adaptive card as well to customize the look and feel the way you want. But to make it a bit easier to create adaptive cards, there's a designer where you can start from a JSON schema, or you can explore a variety of samples when creating a new card. When you create a card structure, you can basically drag and drop card elements straight onto the designer. So you can drag and drop those containers, elements, and inputs. So you can basically arrange things and make the card look just how you want. You can even preview how the card will look. So you select the host app. So for example, if you're designing Windows Widget, which is what this session is covering, then you would choose the Widgets board. But if you were doing something for Microsoft Teams or Viva Connections, you could change the host app to show that. But for Widgets board, it allows you to see what it would look like in the light and dark theme, because they can support theming. And you can also see what it looks like in the small, medium, and large sizes as well. So it gives you a chance to see how it would look and whether it would fit. The actual adaptive card design itself also allows you to update properties. So you could change things like the text of a text box, or you can set up the data binding that I mentioned as well to allow you to change what the text is displayed from using any data. And you can also change layout, change some styling, content, and even the visibility of any elements. Finally, the adaptive card designer has a payload editor. So if you want to go right into the JSON, you can edit it there, or you can copy that to use in your adaptive card for a widget. And you can also test any data binding. So the data binding is supported there. All the sample widgets have sample data as well. So you can see how that data binding would work and how you could select those various kind of images. But designing an adaptive card can take a bit of time to get right. So let's talk about generative AI and how that would be able to help us. So generative AI saves time and effort by leveraging models to assist with generating new ideas, automating content creation, or formatting information. Generative AI features AI models that are trained on large data sets that can contain text, images, or other types of content. The generative AI models can learn any patterns or structure in data and understand the underlying context of the data. Generative AI can then use patterns and context to help generate new content by drawing on what it learned during any training. Generative AI output can then be fine-tuned by refining the prompts to produce more accurate and relevant results. ChatGPT is an AI-powered language model created by OpenAI that can understand natural language to generate ideas, streamline tasks, solve issues, or refine information using generative AI. It can answer in-depth questions by providing detailed and accurate responses to a wide range of topics to help users learn or solve their problems. It can generate creative content such as images and text, including stories, essays, or other creative works tailored to specific themes or audiences. It can provide helpful suggestions when brainstorming ideas or troubleshooting any problems, or to assist with insights and recommendations. But ChatGPT can also, when prompted, design templates, such as creating user-friendly layouts for adaptive cards used by Windows Widgets. Alternatively, there's Copilot, which is an AI companion built by Microsoft, which is also designed to understand natural language, and it can offer solutions, generate ideas, streamline tasks, and refine information. It generates creative ideas by analyzing user input, leveraging a vast knowledge base, and offers innovative solutions to inspire users. It simplifies complex tasks by breaking them down into manageable steps, providing clear instructions to guide users. It solves tough problems by providing insights and strategic recommendations tailored to you. And when prompted, it can also help us out by creating user-friendly adaptive card layouts in Windows Widgets. So let's take a look at how we can design an adaptive card for Windows Widget and then get a bit of help from generative AI. Okay, so we've got the adaptive cards designer here on my screen here, but I can show you what the schema is like. So there's basically full documentation for the actual schema. So if you want to drill down into what every single thing does, you certainly can. So we've got all the card elements like a text block, so we can see what a text box would support. And we see the different options that it has there. We can change the color, the font, all sorts of things. So you want to go super technical and drill down into what the actual structure of an adaptive card would be like, you certainly can. We can also see the different kinds of containers we can support, like a fax set, and we can actually get previews of what these things will look like. So even if you don't know what a fax set is, at least you can see what it looks like. You can even see what a table would look like. So you can go down here and you can see the different kinds of table layouts you can do. We can even learn about the different actions that can be performed. So you could have a button on an adaptive card that could launch a URL to a website, and every single other kind of thing that you can have with an adaptive card. So you can get really into depth about all the different options there and basically learn what they're all about. So you can kind of understand what all the different things do. But to make it a bit easier, we can just use the designer. So the designer is here. So basically it's just hosted on adaptivecards.io, and we can select the host app. So let's choose the widgets board, and we can see how our widget would look. So that's a little bit too small to fit into that one. So we've just changed it to medium, and we can see what it would be like in the dark theme. So if I had my operating system in the dark theme, this is what the widget would look like. And we can obviously change it to large as well. But here is a little bit easier. We do have the JSON payload down here at the bottom, but we can completely ignore that and just go into the drag and drop designer. So say we've got our title at the top, we can resize that if need be, and it'll rearrange everything. So we don't have to worry about changing all of this. We can just drag and drop elements on. Say I want to have another text block, I can add a text block in between something, and I can just drag it on. We can also see the structure here, and we can change any properties. So we can see that there's image here. We can see the text block. It's got a new text block. I can change that text block to say something else. Don't worry, we can't see that. It's just a matter of changing that property. But we've got all the properties from the schema itself. So even if you're not sure what properties are there, they match the schema exactly. And we've also got our payload editor as well. So we can change things like the title to say something else. We also change that to say hello world, and that changes that. So that sample data is using that data binding. And we can see that it's bound to this property called title, which is what I changed. So we can see really easily what's going on. And again, if you want to find out more about what each of the different things does, you can refer to documentation. But again, it can take a bit of time, and you can have fun with this designer and produce a nice layout. But if you're like me and you're not so hot at design, you're just a developer, but you want to get something that looks a bit better, then we can get generative AI to help us out. So what we can do is we can use ChatGPT and ask it to do the hard work for us. So what I'll do is I'll ask it to create a widget for us. So I'll just get a prompt here that I prepared earlier. So what this prompt will do is I've asked it to create an adaptive card using the schema version 1.5, because that's the version we're targeting here, for a medium-sized Windows 11 widget. And the contents will be to describe the Microsoft MVP award, which I mentioned, and we'll make it a nice colorful one. We tell it not to include any images because it might include some random images. And I've told it not to include anything that isn't JSON because adaptive cards are in JSON. So what I'll do is I'll ask it to do that, and we'll get it to generate something there. So this is a live demo, so it might produce output that's a little bit not quite right, but we'll give it a go. So it's just writing out the contents of our widget. So this looks a little long, but we'll still give it a go in the designer to see what that looks like. Perfect. So we've got our JSON there. So what I can do is I can switch over to the designer, and I'll put it in there. And I'll make it a bit larger. So it's a little bit long for a widget, but it doesn't look too bad. So I didn't have to do any of the design. The generative AI has produced the layouts for me. It's produced all the text boxes. It's even put the bullet points and emoji in, all of that, and I didn't have to worry about how it laid out or anything like that. But let's try another example. So what we can do is we can get it to do a background image one. So let's basically start a new chat. And we'll get it to create one with a background image. So all I'm doing is similar prompt. I'm asking it to create an adaptive card that looks nice. And I'm going to tell it to talk about adaptive cards and include an appropriate background image that exists. That might produce a background image that doesn't exist. Sometimes it does this, but we'll hope it doesn't. So let's give it a go. So let's see it. So might be one. Okay, so it's just producing that widget now. So it's entirely down to it what this widget contains. I don't have any control over that. We'll just copy that over and we'll put that into the designer. So yeah, it's not too bad, but the background image it's got doesn't quite exist. But luckily I've got a background image that does. That I got earlier, so I'll just put that in its place. There we go. So there's an image that exists. It's on a black background, so but again, it doesn't look too bad. I've actually done a widget earlier that uses that same image, so I'll just switch to that, just so it's white, and we can see that there. We can do the medium size. We can even do the small size. But what handy thing would be to see what would that actually look like if it were a real Windows widget running in the widgets board. So if you've never selected it before, in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got my taskbar. I can select it, and I've got a widget here. And this is basically a widget that I've written that allows me to basically put in the adaptive card and see what that looks like. So it's got one I actually generated with generative AI as a placeholder. So what I can do is I can use the customize option, and I can put in the contents of the widget, and I can save that. And that will hopefully update this widget. There we go. And we can see what the widget actually looks like. So this would be, if you built your own widget, this is what the card would actually look like. And we can change the size to large and small and see if it fits. Okay, small, it's not going to quite fit. But yeah, so there's a good example of one. So let's do something a little bit more sophisticated. And we'll do that in Copilot this time. So we'll switch over to Microsoft Copilot. And we'll produce another widget. So this time, I'll just do that while it's generating it. So this time I'm doing a similar thing. I'm saying create an adaptive card for a visually interesting Windows 11 widget, just so it makes it look a bit cooler. That has a paragraph about Windows widgets where it toggles that. So I basically asked it, toggle that with a button. I haven't told it exactly how to do that. Widgets can have options where you can toggle something, but I have to go into the designer. I have to set up a lot of different things, but I'm just getting it to do the work for me. So we've got our card here. So I'll just copy that. I'll put that into the designer. And yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Let's see what it looks like in our real widget. So we'll customize this. We'll save that. Brilliant. So we've got our button. Then we click on it. It toggles our paragraph. So I just told it to do that for me. I didn't say how does it actually toggle. I just said make it a button that toggles a paragraph. I didn't have to figure that out. So what you can see is you can start building up these prompts to build more and more sophisticated cards that, yeah, you could do in the designer, but the generative AI is doing it for you. And then you can personalize it, customize it, change the text, and do everything you need to do. But one thing we might want to do is design a widget for an application. So let's do So say we want to do a countdown widget. So again, I've just got a prompt here saying, create a visually interesting widget for Windows 11 that uses as many schema elements as possible. So I'm telling it, just use the schema, just go for it for a countdown widget. Again, I've told it not to include any images. So this might produce something we're not quite sure what it's going to be like, but that might be okay. Let's copy this and let's put it into the designer. There we go. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good. So we've got a nice countdown widget right there. I quite like the look of that one. So we'll definitely keep that. And what we'll do is we'll go to our preview widget. We'll customize it. And we'll save it. And there we go. So that could be the basis of our new widget. We've got days, hours, minutes, and a developer could then hook that up. So when it clicks starts countdown, it would update that. But that's really easy. I literally just told it to create that widget. I didn't give any guidance about how it should look like. I just said don't include any images. That was it. So it was completely down to it. And that was a pretty good layout, actually. So I quite like that one. But again, when you're working with a developer, you might want to do some more sophisticated behavior. So what we'll do is we'll get a new prompt. So create a new session. And this time, we'll ask it to create a visually interesting widget again. This time, we'll tell it to do a bit of data binding. So we'll do that data binding. It sounds really complicated, but we'll just get it to do it for us. So we'll say, use data binding. I've given it a little bit of guidance about how to do that. I've said that data binding should be with a $, because that's how adaptive cards do their data binding, and use only fields from this endpoint. So this endpoint is a cat facts endpoint. So if you've got cats, this is some cat facts. I've just given it an example cat fact that comes back from this API, and it's given me this. So let's copy that, and we'll put that into the designer. So there we go. We've got cat fact, even tells us the length of the cat fact because that was part of the API. And we can, but what we can do is we can put in the data binding. So we can, in the data editor, we can change it. And as you see, it updates. So what we can also do is we get the real API. Here it is. So here's another cat fact. So we'll put that in the designer instead. And that would show us what it looks like there. But what we can obviously do as well is we can customize my preview widget. I can put the template in, but I can also put the data in. So we've got another box here just below that allows me to put the data in. And there we go. So I can see what the widget would actually look like. So again, you could work with a developer like myself to make that actually work. When they click the refresh button, it could recheck and reload under a different cat fact. So you basically got the flexibility to design any kind of widget you like. Then you can tweak it in the designer. You can finalize it, add more graphics, make it look nicer. But basically get the generative AI to do all the hard work is the best way to do it, I think. And yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Brilliant. Okay. So, but if you want to actually create cards in the designer, we do have some samples. So there's many samples you can start from. So you can create different ones. You could have a cat pictures widget. So we could create that one with some cat pictures from Bing. But we've got a variety of different cards as well. You could do a flight itinerary. So if you wanted to buy a flight itinerary widget, you could do that. But even if you're working alongside a developer, you can still create these. And because it uses a standard system, you can do anything that a widget is possible to do. And then you could give it to a developer afterwards. But you can do all sorts of different layouts, anything you like. You can even do a weather widget as well, where you can basically select that. And we can see the data there and the binding if we want. But yeah, so we've got, and there's also samples as well. So there's a few extra samples in the library as well. We could do a flight update, and we could even see what they look like here. So again, you could take one of these existing ones, modify it, and do anything you need to do with it to basically look anything like you want. But yeah, that's the flexibility there. You could start with one of these, you could get it to change it. But yeah, the flexibility is there to do whatever we want to, and basically create one with generative AI. Then we could copy it over to the designer. Then we can make the design changes. Then we can make some tweaks. We could even copy that into, let's say, my preview widget to see what it looks like, and really refine it down. But you don't have to know anything about adaptive cards if you don't want to. You can basically use the generative AI to do that for you. Brilliant. Right. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my slides. And I'll just summarize what we talked about. So Windows 11 itself is where you'll find your Windows widgets. And it also contains various features like Copilot to make yourself more productive. And you can also find the information from various widgets that are built in to Windows 11. So that's there's a calendar widget, there's a to-do widget, news, traffic, anything you like. Widgets themselves, they provide a easy to use and dynamic way of getting information. So that can be interactive with a user. So like that button where it was toggling the information, or it could update the data like the cat facts, anything you really need it to be. And then adaptive cards themselves can be created yourself. So you can basically build them using the designer, or you can tweak them using the schema. So you can change properties, that sort of thing. Or you can basically use generative AI to build a completely self-contained widget and not have to do anything with the designer at all. Just basically ask Copilot or ChatGPT to create those layouts for you. And generative AI can also be used for other things as well, but it's really, really good at being able to get you started. So if you're not sure about adaptive cards at all, you can basically create them, and as long as you tell it that's the particular way to do it, then it will output them fine. And even if it's a little bit wrong, you can always tweak it in the designer as well. So if something's not quite right, maybe it added a couple of extra things, which does sometimes happen, you can basically tweak the output as you need to. So that's how you can actually design adaptive cards. But if you want to know how to use an adaptive card with a Windows widget, then I've got another talk coming next time, which will be on developing Windows widgets with generative AI. So that'll show you how to create a widget provider. But this talk basically goes over how you can basically design one. So thanks for listening to my talk about designing Windows widgets with generative AI. You can get the slides, and there's code for that widget preview widget as well. So if you want to get into that and see how it actually look in a widgets board, you can download that from github.com/rogueplanetoid/designing Windows widgets. And if you want to ask any questions, you can now. But if you want to ask any after, you can connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/rogueplanetoid. So yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Peter. It was a really great, informative session. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I see that we have one question that I'm going to post on the screen. Not sure if you can see it now.
Yes, I can. Yes, so there is a for learning how to do widgets. There is. I can put that in the chat. But I think it's. Let me just get that one for you. Yeah, so if you want to go a bit more deep dive into like how they're created and stuff, I'll get that link for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's aka.ms/widget dev docs. So that's the actual link that will take you to any of the documentation. But for adaptive cards specifically, it's adaptivecards.io. But aka.ms/widget dev docs, and that will tell you the developer documentation for creating a widget.
Great. I just shared it now in the chat. Okay, so I think if we don't have any more questions, we will wrap up this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Peter, for delivering this great session and for your time. And we hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.